Hey everybody, Bob Murnahan here, and this is part 3 of our minor to major exploration. And we started out saying that the simple way to go from minor to major in a blues is simply to target the third of the chord. And we've been doing our demonstration here in the key of G, so I've been using the G7 chord as the focus. And we said the B is the third of the chord, and we pointed out the locations of those. That was day 1. Day 2, we talked about how you can target that third either by coming from a step below, a half step below, I'm sorry, from the B flat to the B, or you can surround it playing C, B flat, and then B natural. Today I want to take it just a little farther, and I want to talk about the difference between the minor pentatonic scale and why it's so effective, and what happens when we put that B in there, the third. So the minor pentatonic scale, G, B flat, C, D, F, and then it repeats G, B flat, C, D, F, G, B flat. It contains 3 of the notes from the G7 chord. That's why it works so well. It's got the G, which is the root, the D is the 5th, and the F, which is the 7th of the chord. And then if we put the B in, which is the note we've been targeting, that's the third of the chord. Right now, that note is not in the minor pentatonic scale. It's part of the chord. You can see when you play the G7 chord, it's sitting right there underneath your middle finger. Now, if I were to play just those notes, G, B, D, F, G, B, D, F, G, and then I can reach out here and grab the B on the 1st string to the 7th fret, that gives me a G7 arpeggio. And all those notes work great because they're in the chord. Anytime you have a chord and you play one of the notes in the chord, you have nothing to worry about. There's going to be a match there. So always keep that in mind. The notes of the chords are always strong notes. And that G7 arpeggio, once again, it's 3rd fret, 6th string, 2nd fret, 5th string, 5th fret, 5th string, 3rd fret, 4th string, 5th fret, 4th string, 4th fret, 3rd string, 3rd fret, 2nd string, 6th fret, 2nd string, 3rd fret, 1st string, and 7th fret, 1st string. So that's a good thing to get under your fingers. And you'll get a lot of use out of that. Now, back to the minor pentatonic scale, rather. The B flat is not part of the chord, and if we heard this note against the chord, which we will in the backing track here in just a second, you're going to hear it sounds a little funny. Also, if you've gone to a jam or you're just getting started playing and you play a lick and you end on that C and the 1 chord happens to be playing, you're going to again notice it doesn't sound that great because that note doesn't fit into the chord. It doesn't match the chord. And the B flat is a blue note. It's part of what contributes to the sound of the blues. And you'll find that up here in the higher registers it sounds fine. Even here it sounds great. But down here it might sound a little funny. Now, I want you to keep in mind I'm talking about notes that you land on. So as long as I play through the scale and I just move up and down, there's not going to be any problem because you're not on any one note long enough to really feel the effect of what happens when you stop on that note. Now, all the notes that are in the chord, if I stop on any one of those, again, that's going to be fine. If I stop on one of the notes that's not in the chord, like this C, for instance, then that's going to create tension. And all scales have that. You got notes that are part of the chord and notes that aren't part of the chord. And you got to learn to control what sounds that you want to hear. In other words, sometimes the tension is good. Sometimes you want to create that tension. That's why we play the 9ths of the chords or the 13ths, etc. But you're going to find that register makes a difference, which I mentioned a second ago, and some notes just don't seem to work at all, which we're going to hear again against the backing track here in a second, like the 4th, which is the C against the G7 chord. You're going to find that it really probably tweaks your ear, not in such a great way. So let's put the backing track on and hear some of these sounds and apply some of these things that we've been talking about for the last couple of days against the backing track and see how that works out. So give me a second to get that one queued up and I'll be with you. I've got a backing track queued up here, and as I mentioned, this is just a G7, and we're going to assume that this is the 1 chord in a G blues. This is kind of a shuffle groove. And we're going to apply all these things that we've been talking about over this track so you can hear them. And then it's really important for this next step to occur, and that is for you to play along to the backing track and try these ideas for yourself. And so you'll be able to download that below this video. But we're going to apply all the things that we talked about. We're going to go straight to the B, which is the same as basically playing the G7 arpeggio. We're going to approach from the half step below. We're going to do the B flat to the B. We're going to do the C, B flat, B. I'm going to point out some of the notes that you land on that don't sound so great. So here we go. First of all, just up and down the scale. As I mentioned earlier, when I'm just moving through all the notes like that, you're not on any one note long enough to create any kind of tension. Let's listen to the B flat down here in the low register. Notice when I stop on that note, it really kind of tweaks the ear, creates some tension. It wants to really resolve back down to here, or you can go to the B, which is part of the chord again. Now let's try this C here and hear what that sounds like. So again, if you've been to a jam session and you've played this note and it doesn't sound right, it's because it's not part of the chord. It really clashes with a third of the chord. It really wants to be down here. Let's hear it up here in the upper register. Not quite as bad, but still, it really wants to be down here, right? It wants to be going down to that third of the chord. It wants to go down to the chord tone here. So keep that in mind. The chord tones are really safe places to land. Anytime you land on a chord tone, you're not going to have any trouble. Here's a B flat in the upper register. Now again, it has a tendency to want to resolve, but we're used to hearing that sound in the blues, so we can live with it. Same thing up here. So notice the register has a big effect. This B flat down here really doesn't sound that great at all, but up here and up here, something that we can live with. Now let me play just some arpeggio stuff only for you here. All those notes are going to work just fine because they're part of the chord. Now here's some B flat to B. Some C to B flat to B. Up here in the upper register. Now there's some blues scale. So notice here, playing that flat 5, I'm still doing the C to the B flat up to the B, and then here, coming down the blues scale, and ending up on the B instead of on that C, right? That doesn't sound so great. I hear B.B. King do stuff like that a lot. Play this note here and then jump back up here to the root of the chord. Okay, there's a few of those things in action that we've talked about. You know, don't get so caught up in what I was playing. You know, I was trying to talk through some things, play at the same time, and my poor feeble split brain doesn't really have that capability. Not much anyhow. The thing that I want you to take away is to try these ideas. You know, I gave you some licks last time. We've talked about all the ways you can get to this third and go from that minor to major sound in the blues without having to think about slipping down into that major pentatonic and then back to the minor pentatonic. Just trying to simplify things for you a bit here. So spend some time with the track and work on these ideas, and we're going to, believe it or not, we're going to expand this just a little bit more tomorrow, and then we'll just see where we go from there. All right, remember, get the track on, practice, and I'll see you next time around.